This is Conversation with the Cooks, presented by Husker Sports, a monthly podcast with Nebraska volleyball coach John Cook and former All-American Lauren Cook. On this edition of Conversation with the Cooks.
Well, after she did that, I put on my phone my Jay-Z walkout song. It's like, okay, here we go. We got to keep it going here. It was, you talk about belly laughs. Everybody was belly laughing. Jazz crushed that thing, and she got some shopping money.
Now, here's your host, Lauren Cook.
So here we are recording our first ever podcast, Conversations with the Cooks, a Nebraska volleyball podcast. I'm Lauren Cook, and with me today is head volleyball coach John Cook, and he'll be with me for every podcast for the rest of the year, so you're stuck with me. Did you ever think you'd be recording a podcast with me?
That thought never really crossed my mind, but I just started learning how to listen to podcasts on my iPhone. I didn't even know there was an podcast, app on there.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think it was you and Jason that showed me that, and I've actually listened to a couple. So learning to be a techie.
What's your favorite podcast?
I haven't found a favorite one yet.
Okay.
Maybe this will be it.
Are you into like murder mystery or like how I built this, learning about companies?
No, I was listening to the one that, they're trying to solve mysteries. So that was a little
okay. So that's
creepy.
Murder mystery.
And then I tried that one. I tried a money one, which I couldn't get through. And then there's a couple of business ones I listened to. So mainly I was just listening to podcasts, knowing that this is coming down the road, like how do people do podcasts. But my favorite one is Jocko. He's a former Navy SEAL guy who does one, Jocko Willingneck. And anyway, he's intense. And then my other favorite one was Lance Armstrong.
The Forward.
Yeah.
I listened to that.
I listened to that, but those guys talk about themselves too much. So I hope we're not going to talk about myself too much.
Oh, we'll be talking about you the most of the time. And I guess we'll talk about me a little bit, but we've kind of been practicing this for the past 20 years, just talking back and forth. But I think you made a joke that years maybe 14, 15, 16, and 17, I didn't really talk to you much.
Yeah, well, I'll clarify that exactly. It was I was really cool, and you listened to everything I said, and then once ninth grade hit, right after that, then there was a span of about 3 years. I didn't know what I was talking about, nor did you listen to anything. And then when you went to college, all of a sudden, and I had to pay bills and stuff, all of a sudden we were friends again.
But I had to listen to you because you were coaching me, so
that's true.
It all comes full circle. Yeah. You never listen to me though, and I'm usually right. So
yeah, but you
didn't started listening.
I told you to come to Nebraska, and you didn't listen. You went to UCLA, so
I had to get away.
Yeah.
See, you have to go away and then come back, and then you realize how good Nebraska actually is.
I think that's really accurate, and that's something that I talked to a lot of our players, and I told Lindsay that. Told Danny that you got to go away from here because they grew up here, you grew up here, so it's good to go away and experience other things, and then you realize how special Nebraska is. I mean, we have a saying, "There's no place like Nebraska," and that's how you learn it.
It is. Lindsay's your director of ops now, and Danny's super successful at Louisville, right?
Yeah.
So those are two former players. But speaking of volleyball, we should probably get into a little volley talk. What have you been doing from the national championship match, which we won't talk about too much because I know that's a sour subject, up until really this week? I mean, you guys are starting two-a-days, and then you're getting into the season. The two-a-days, the season's coming up. I mean, I don't know where summer went.
Yeah.
But just talk me through. I know a lot has happened in this off season, a little more than others. So talk me through everything that's happened, and we'll highlight the China trip as well.
Yeah. So typically, what happens? The players. I actually had a mom. One of our freshmen text me today, like, "Okay, when is their next break?" I said, "Well, it'll be at Christmas, and that's it."
Is their daughter homesick?
No, it just she just wanted to know, when she would be home. The other time they go home in May, but they have a program that they actually work out while they're at home. So the only time they really get a true break is once the season's over, and hopefully we go right up to Christmas and the national championship. And then they get about a 3-week break. They come back and start school. We give them the first week off, and it's the one time really of the whole year that they actually get to be a student with nothing going on and no sports. So that's the 1 week they get to be just a student. And then we hit it hard, and we do what we call boot camp training, which is 4 days a week, lifting, running, and then we start beach volleyball. And of course, we played more beach volleyball matches this year than we ever have. Jalen was the head coach and did a great job of scheduling. And we just, all these teams now, there's so many teams playing beach volleyball now, they all ask about, okay, what format do you want? Hey, we just say, we'll play as many matches as you guys will play, and we can play in a day because our season is limited. So we'll play 3-4 times a day if we can. And
you guys really just want an excuse to get out to the warm weather.
Well, that's part of it. But we went to San Diego this year. It was raining the whole time, so that wasn't good. But and then, of course, our indoor season, and we went to McCook, Nebraska this year. We took the team there, and I think when you were here, we went to Grand Island and sold out that new. They just built that new arena out there and sold that out. And but McCook was probably one of the best sites we went to in the western part of the state because those people were starving for the Huskers. They loved the Huskers. How we were treated. The venue where we played at the junior college there was a really nice venue. It was small.
It was loud.
Yeah, and the problem was. There's only so many seats, and so many people camp out and wait in line and can't get tickets. So I feel really bad about that. But that's why going to Grand Island we can get a lot more people in there. But it's really special to know these small towns want us, and we can go there, and it's a big deal for those people. And then
okay, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah,
we're backing way up. You're going through this too quickly. You're giving me the generic answer here. Okay. So back in December, end of December, you got a hip replacement, right?
Oh yeah.
So
I thought we're going to talk about me.
We can't leave that out. What did you get it? Because were fans complaining you're getting up off the bench too slow, so you needed to get a hip replaced?
Well, it really hit me when I was having a hard time tying my left shoe, and then we got to the Final Four, and all the ESPN people, because we'd been to 4 straight Final Fours, so it's the same. It's Holly Rowe and all those people, and Paul Sunderland and Karch, and ironically, I was talking to Karch. He got his a year ago in January. So he was telling me all about it, and I'm thinking, okay. But anyway, I was having a hard time getting around, and they're like, Coach, you okay? And you got to go sit in all these meetings and interviews and do all this stuff. And every time I get up, it's like, Coach, you okay? Is everything okay? So I just realized that it was probably time. And, as a coach, you try to be tough and tough it out. But I toughed it out for a long time. And
for people who haven't read your book, which you came out with a book a couple years ago, and then our hardcover, and then you came out with the soft cover and an extended chapter. So this year we're hoping for maybe another chapter, and I don't know what else you can come up with. But you got in an accident about 20 years ago, a long time ago, over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago, yeah, a long time ago.
And that's what caused this hip replacement.
Yeah.
And you lay that out all in your book. And for people who haven't read your book, it's that accident is why this left hip needed that replacement.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the hip replacement, you go into the beach season. How did you guys do? I mean, there was a little bit of coverage on your sand volleyball season and how you guys did, but I feel like there could have been a little more. So is there anything more that you can touch on or tell us about the sand season?
Let's see, the boys in here, as they edit and put this out, we could just say right now, I think our fans would love to have a broadcast of a beach volleyball match from Hawaii.
We should do that.
So
bring Husker Sports Network out to Hawaii.
I think I know if baseball went out there, they would probably do a baseball broadcast. But it might be fun for our fans and just to because what's interesting, Lauren, in beach, you might have 5 matches going on at once. Right. And there's only 2 coaches. So the coaches are running around between all the courts. And so the players kind of have to coach themselves, and that's one thing I like about it. And then you got 5 matches going. You're trying to figure out, okay, who's over here, what's the score, and it's actually really tense, but it's fun and exciting. And then the girls can't really cheer for each other because they're all playing, so they kind of just cheer for each other and fight together. So I think that would be really interesting to have a live broadcast.
Hey, Ben McLaughlin's in Italy with the basketball team.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah. Why wasn't Ben in China with us?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go to China. Everybody goes to Italy, but nobody wants to go to China with a volleyball team.
Hey, I went to China in 2010, and I'll never go back.
That's the beauty of going to China. We don't have to take any administrators. Nobody wants to go.
Speaking of China, give me a rundown of the 17 days you were there, and then give me a really good story. Funny story, something crazy that happened.
The story I'll always remember, I can't share on the air.
Well, you're not on the air. You're on a podcast.
I don't know if I can go there, so let me think about that while we go through the China trip. But Lauren, this is the 5th time I've taken a Nebraska team to China. And so if we go back in history, my first year here in 2000, I wanted to do, part of the reason I took the Nebraska job and came from Wisconsin was I wanted to do something that had never been done before at Nebraska. I wanted to take Nebraska to a new level. And Coach Pettit already had Nebraska volleyball at the top. So that was the challenge. And I thought, this is the only way it would bring out the best in me, is to come here to Nebraska and see what could we do to take it to another level. So Nebraska had never been on an international trip. And in 1996, I had taken, you were about 5 or 6 years old then, I took the Wisconsin team to Russia. And so we were the first college team ever to go to Russia. And then in 2000, we were the first college team ever to go to China.
I still have a Russian doll.
Yeah, I know.
Glass doll. And then the little, what are those dolls called that have, like you take the top off and then there's another doll inside of that doll and then it just keeps getting smaller. Yeah, still have those.
You know, some of those things go for $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 because of the way they're painted and everything.
Seriously?
So, yeah.
Maybe I should
maybe
start selling.
Maybe there's money in your college funds in one of those. You just haven't looked far enough. But so it was the 5th time we went to China, and in 2000, it was still a communist country. It was, I would call it a third world country. Now the volleyball is first world, but the country was third world, and Lindsay is still traumatized from being on that trip. And then the 5th time we went, China now is probably more modern than the United States. And I think because starting in the Olympics, when they hosted the Olympics in 2008, they modernized China, and it's unbelievable now how nice everything is. And what really impressed me the most was they've gone all electric for the most part for cars and bikes and motorcycles. So the pollution's way down.
So you just have smoking pollution, cigarette pollution.
Yeah, but even the cigarette part's down.
Really?
Yeah, so China has, so that's 19 years, it's really, really changed. So that was fascinating for me.
I remember playing matches and the coaches were on the sidelines just smoking a cigarette in a big poof of smoke, and I'm trying to run around and set balls and coughing because I'm choking. And
that was the old guard for coaches. Now they're all young coaches. And ironically, Jordan Larson's going to play for Shanghai where we went, and they have a very young coach. He speaks English. He loves the Huskers. He watches our matches. And I mean, in 2000, China didn't even know about Nebraska volleyball. But what's fascinating, and I don't know, our old-time fans will remember this, but Li Guzhan, June, who you know, came over from China. She's a national hero in China, came over and was our volunteer coach in 2000 because she wanted to come here. And because of that, when we won the national championship, they broadcast the match. They replayed it in China. So that match got played potentially in front of 1 billion people. So that's really what, kind of put Nebraska in China. And at the same time, we were going through trade negotiations, starting to sell corn and products from Nebraska. And that's one of the reasons we were able to get in the country. And of course, the famous camera got taken and all those stories. But anyway, it's just really changed. It's way more modern now. All the teams, like where Jordan's going, they all have new facilities. Beautiful. I mean, they're world-class facilities. I mean, they put so much money into these places. It's unbelievable. So there wasn't a lot of hardship for our players except getting our butts kicked playing the Chinese teams.
Yeah, because you were in 5-star hotels every night.
No, only 3 nights we were in 5-star hotels.
That's not what I heard.
But we stayed under budget, and the only reason we got to go on those hotels, so Steve Wang, who I've taken on all the trips, he actually works for Talent Plus now and manages a Singapore office, but he used to work for Nebraska and was a professor here. But through Talent Plus, he hires all the managers to run these 5-star hotels, so he gets less expensive rates than if we could just get a normal basic hotel on our own. So we got to stay at the Langham and the Hyatt, and they're five-star hotels. They're unbelievable.
Maybe 5+.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. So it was really nice. And
you also went to Japan.
Yeah.
We can't forget about Japan, because I've heard Japan's actually better than China.
Yeah, Japan is. So in your trip, did we go to? No. We only went to China. Yeah.
Japan, I think, started in 2014.
Yeah, we went in 2006 to Japan as well.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The hard thing with Japan is they take the month of May off, and that's typically when we go. So, but now when we go in June, we can actually go to Japan. So in 14 and 06, we went in later in June, and we're able to go to Japan. But Japan's an awesome country, but the thing about Japan is their respect for the sport of volleyball is incredible, and their discipline and how they play. I mean, I could sit there all day and watch them train and play. They don't have great athletes, but they play a beautiful style of volleyball. China's like us. They have big athletes. They're physical. They hit the ball hard, but they train 6 days a week, 50 weeks a year, and they're good.
I mean, they're training like 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a 2-hour, 3-hour practice and they're done for the day. I mean, they're training 6 days a week.
Yeah. So in Japan, I went over to watch a morning practice at Himatsu, who's the champions, and I went in there they said practice started at 10, so we got the car and went over there. We got there about 9:15 because we were going to work out in the weight room, and there's players in there getting reps. This is before the first morning practice started, and we were going to play them in that afternoon and train with them. So because they live there, literally, it's their dorm room would be like our locker room. That's their dorm room. They walk out in the gym. That's where they live. And
for them, it's like going to work.
Yeah, totally.
Instead of having a desk job or what we consider a job in the business world, I mean, that's their work. That's their job.
Yeah. So Hisamitsu is a pharmaceutical company. And so when we played them the second day, they allowed all their employees over lunch. We had to play over lunch so their employees could come in and watch. But so it was, and there's some people coming in wearing Nebraska stuff. Oh. I'm like, where'd you guys come from? Well, they live there, and I think the mom worked there, but actually the daughter was going to school in Kearney, but she was home for the summer. So, I mean, there's Huskers everywhere.
There really is Huskers everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go anywhere in the world, and you're going to see someone in Husker gear. We went to Greece in April, and we went to dinner one night, and there was a couple next to us with a Nebraska shirt on. I mean, all the way in the middle of Greece.
Yeah. We're in the 5-star hotel, and I'm walking through on brunch. This thing's unbelievable, and people go Big Red.
Okay, so have you thought of a good story from China or Japan?
So Japan was pretty, we start off, you prepare for this trip, you go 10 days training, we plan all this stuff out, we get all these shots and everything. We get there, the first day we go in the gym, and Jolene and Lauren and Lexi aren't there. I'm like, where are they? Well, they had, what do you call it, pink eye?
Oh, gosh.
So the Japanese won't let them in the gym because they don't want to get all their players infected. So Lauren and Lexi and Jolene take off, and they take them to a hospital, because in Japan you go to the hospital and see the doctor there. So literally they're gone for like 5 hours. And we determined it's a form of pink eye that wasn't contagious. So they picked something up on the plane.
There's a form of pink eye that's not contagious.
That's what the Japanese doctor said. But at least they were allowed to come back in the gym with us. And we didn't have to disinfect everybody in the whole gym. So that was the start of the trip. And then the next day, we had another player had another issue, and she was gone. So we do all this preparation. I'm like, okay, we're just starting this trip off, and we've got 3 players already gone to the hospital. So, but after that, it was great. But I think there was two big things for me. Is we were playing Toray, where Katie Rawson played 2 years ago, and another great program in Japan. And we were down 24-21 in the third. We were just playing a 2 out of 3, and so I'm thinking, okay, this, it's over. We're going to lose it. So I double sub. I put in Nicole and Aneshka.
Nicole's freshman setter.
Yeah. And so Nicole's serving. So she's literally peeing on the floor. And Aneshka blocks the first ball for a point. They set the girl again, and Aneshka stuffs her again for a point. Then they set her again, and Aneshka, because Nicole's serving tough and got him out of the system. We get a touch. We convert. All of a sudden it's 24-24, and I'm thinking, okay, we got a chance to beat one of these teams. I mean, it's so hard to even get to that point. So I'm like, oh, please, please, please. Anyway, it starts going back and forth, and we finally win at 29-27, still in that double sub.
Wow.
So it was just awesome to see those guys pull that thing out. But I think the other thing was one of the traditions is we go to have what's called a duck dinner in China. And the duck dinner, it's Peking duck. It's very famous in China. And you go there, there's pictures of presidents from the United States in there. There's movie stars. There's all these famous people. They all go to this chain of Peking duck and restaurants. And so anyway, we go into this one, and we're in there. And so the tradition has been over the years is they bring you duck, and they bring all these other things, in Chinese, and you're all sitting around tables. And then they bring out a whole fish. So the tradition has always been on every trip is somebody eats the fish head. So Aneshka says, I'm eating the fish head. So people start throwing money, or yuan, you want Chinese money, which, I don't know, you have wads of it and it's worth like $5. They start throwing it out on the table. So Aneshka starts. I mean, this is a whole fish head, eyes, everything.
Bones.
Yeah. And she starts and can't handle it. She bails out. I'm out. So she's over there turning green. And then Jazz just calmly steps up and says, I got it. So Jazz starts this thing, and I'm ready. I'm turning green. Half the team can't watch.
I saw the video.
Yeah.
Your face is hilarious. And then you're playing a rap, some type of rap music, walkout song to get her pumped up.
Yeah. Well, after she did that, I put on my phone my Jay-Z walkout song. It's like, okay, here we go. We got to keep the kid going here. It was, okay, you talk about belly laughs. Everybody was belly laughing. Jazz crushed that thing, and she got some shopping money. Let's back up. I have one more story about China, because this is the first time this has ever happened on 5 trips.
Okay.
So there's part of the Great Wall that we go to, and there's a Chinese name, but it's out in the mountains, and it's kind of away from Beijing. It takes about an hour and 20 minutes to get there. Anyway, there's parts of the wall are so steep, you're literally crawling hand to foot, crawling up it, and then you have to do that coming down. It's so steep. And it was when they built it, so many people died building it, they just buried them in the wall. This wall is, the width of a road and probably 20, 30 feet off the ground. So, the Mongolians couldn't get over it. So we get up to the tower, which is pretty tough to get up to. And it takes about an hour to get to this first tower. So we're like, okay, this is it. And then I look up and the wall keeps going. They opened up another section that goes up to this next tower as far as you can go on the wall, that they have it for people to walk on. Otherwise it's older and they don't let people go on it. So I was feeling really good with my new hip. And I wanted to get a good workout. So I'm like, guys, I'm gonna go stay here. When Andrew, our photographer, he was having trouble getting up there. In fact, he never did make it up there. So we're waiting for him there. He couldn't even get halfway up. So he's out of gas. He's waiting until we come down to take the pictures. And so I decide, okay, I'm going to go to the top of this thing. So I start going up there. And there's like maybe 1 or 2 people that even tried going up there from this tower. So I start going up there. And so I'm going. I get up there and I look back, and here's the Huskers coming up. And then, so it was the younger ones, the freshmen were with me, and they get up there, so we're taking pictures. So I'm thinking, okay, nobody else is coming up. Next thing I know, here comes Lauren, and then here comes Nicklin, and then here comes this player and that player. And all of a sudden, the whole team went all the way to the top. And Chad Dorr, who was our sports psychologist on the trip, he was with us. Now, he did not make it up there, but he got up there and he saw all this happen. So on the last night, we debrief, and this is another part of it. Do you remember this? We get in bathrobes.
Yep.
And
which sounds weird.
Well, we're in a really nice hotel. And what we do is we go down to the pool and jacuzzi and hang out, have some snacks. And then we got around this room in a big round table, but everybody's in bathrobes. And so the significance of that is everybody's equal. And we're all in this together, and everybody's in their bathrobes. And so you have all this white around the table. And Chad was at that, and he got up and talked about how impressed he was that the whole team went up there without being asked, being told. It's just they wanted to go up there, and they wanted to stick together. And I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen on one of these trips, because that was, and we've been on that wall several times, but no Huskers have ever gone past that first tower, because you're gassed by then. And we've had players try to run it, and coaches try to run. Nobody's been able to run up there. It's so steep, because it's straight up this mountain.
Sometimes you're using I remember your hands.
Yeah.
You're like rock climbing, free soloing. What do they call
like
that? When you don't have any ropes on you and you're just going up the side of a cliff.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just another little story there. We're talking about China.
It's funny if you really think about that analogy of everyone in their bathrobe means everyone's equal. It's just kind of silly that they picked a bathrobe, but I like it.
That actually started in 2000. We had to check out of our hotel, and we weren't leaving till night. So what are we going to do all day? And this is the trip that Lindsay was on. So we found a spa. I said, let's just go to a spa and hang out. We'll get, work out, jacuzzi, sauna, get ready for this, long flight home and jet lag. And we went to this spa, and we actually they had massage people there. So we got massages. We went in the jacuzzi, and I said, well, let's just have a debrief about our trip. And so everybody was in their bathrobes. So we just all kind of hung out, and we got this little area by this jacuzzi, and we just sat there and talked about the trip, and it was awesome. And then ever since then, the tradition has been, okay, we recreate that, because it was such a powerful thing that we did. And everybody remembered it, and everybody remembered, you really everybody's so vulnerable at that point that everything comes out, and you talk about what's really on your heart.
You're all about your tradition.
Yep.
Those are some good stories. Okay, so after Japan and China, you guys get into camps. And I want to talk about the Dream Team camp, because that's something that we don't see from other colleges or other schools. I know you had your entire 2021 class here, which I got to see. They're all studs.
Okay, well, I'm not allowed to talk about them, but
we can't name names. We can't name names. But just tell me the significance of that camp, what you guys hope to get out of the camp and what you did get out of the camp, and just kind of how that works and what that looks like.
Yeah, so what we decided 3 years ago that we had to do something different to try to get the top recruits come to Nebraska, because with recruiting now, we're recruiting so far out. So how are we going to get these 8th and 9th and 10th graders to come to camp? Well, we got to do something different. So we're going to call it the Dream Team Camp. And so we sent out invitations. So just like going to prom, or, you get an invitation to a wedding. Yeah. So we actually made up these really cool invitations, which were legal, sent them out, and invited them to come to camp. And so that 2021 class was the first group as 9th graders that got asked to come. And so they all showed up from that camp. I have a saying, if they come on campus and you don't offer, you ain't getting them, and they ain't coming back.
Right.
Because it's like you ask a girl to go to the dance, or a girl asks a guy to come to the dance, or vice versa, and they say no. Usually if you ask again, they're going to say no again. So that's kind of a basic analogy, but I've seen that happen over and over. So we had to make decisions right there at the end of that camp, who we were going to offer. And so we offered 5 people, because we knew that was a really big class for us. And we offered 5 players, and they all committed. So now they just changed the rules. You can't do that anymore. So another rule to stop what the Huskers thought up.
Everyone's against Nebraska, right?
Listen, probably half that rule book is because of things I've tried, and they make rules against it.
Okay, so after the camp season, which is in the summer, then you head up straight to the mountains, and you're a mountain guy. You love the cool air, you love going on hikes, you love riding your bike. You used to be a wrangler back in the day. That's something a lot of people don't know. You would ride a horse and make trails, right?
Yeah.
In Wyoming?
Yeah. The girls circulated a picture. They somehow got a picture of me in my cowboy stuff.
We'll have to post that on Husker Sports Network Twitter account.
Yeah, I don't know where they got it from, but did you give it to them?
No, I think Taylor,
oh,
your son, my brother, I think he found it and posted it on his Instagram, and then the girls got it from there, and they started circulating it. Social media.
Yeah.
One picture can go viral.
That's where I fell in love with the mountains. I got a chance to work on a ranch for 2 years when I was in college, and because back then I was an athlete, but you didn't train in the summers. There was no strength coaches or summer programs. The gyms weren't open. I mean, you went home and worked, and tried to make some money. So I got a chance to go up to this ranch in Wyoming, and literally was on a horse for 8 hours a day. I learned how to put their shoes on, groom them. They were out in pasture every night. I'd ride out, bring them in the morning, take them out at night. I actually broke 2 horses, meaning they'd never been ridden, and I started riding them and taught them how to, so people could ride them. And I had a chance to work with he was a longtime cowboy, and he taught me everything. And so ever since then, I thought, okay, someday I want to live in the mountains. And so that's why we go back, and you've been up there several times, and so love the mountains.
Maybe that's another reason why you needed a hip replacement, because you were riding horses for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. I wish we had yoga back then. Could have been probably better.
But that's where you get your creative juices flow when you go to the mountains.
Yeah.
And that you get a lot of thoughts for the season. I mean, it's right before the season starts, and it's a time for you to relax as well, because you're usually stressed out from the beginning of August until probably January. I mean, you're stressed out year round, but I would say it's a nice time for you to relax and also just think of themes for the season and probably different practice plans and who your starting lineup's going to be.
Yeah. So Lauren, that you're absolutely right. My assistants hate it because they're on a little break too, but I am like pounding them with information about 6 a.m. every morning because I have all these ideas and things I want to do. And the Japanese call it forest baths. And so they actually, in Japan, because they live in such dense cities, they go in the forests for walks, and they really believe it's healthy. It engages your mind to be free and think and take away the stress. Well, I think that's what the mountains do for me. But I get so many ideas, and I have a book that I write them all down in, and I actually am going to have to get a new book now, or folder, because it's almost full. And but anyway, it is a great break. I always try to take a break before the season. I give our players, they had 5 days off to take a break. So I think it's just a good recharge and come back and you're fired up and excited. And hopefully our players, being away from the gym, they're excited. They want to get back in because they feel like they got to get back in. So it's a good time.
All right, we're going to end this podcast with something that it's going to be reoccurring. So we're going to do it every single podcast. It's called a cook confession and a cook lesson. Lesson, confession, trying to get it to rhyme there. So I get to partake in this as well because I'm a cook. So I'll start it off, and I'm going to start with my cook confession. Okay, so this you have to make juicy. Tell us something that maybe no one knows. And I'm actually going to confess to, most people know this that are close to you, but not everyone, is you hate it when people eat in your car. It drives you nuts. So anytime I drive your car, or anytime Mom and I drive your car and go shopping or go do something together, we usually eat in your car. Oh. So I have eaten in your car. But I will say,
I thought it was when Lindsay takes it.
I did not pull a Brooke Delano and spill a bowl of Fruit Loops cereal in your car with milk.
How do you remember all that?
I just remember Brooke saying that the most mad she's ever seen you was when she spilled a bowl of Fruit Loop cereal in your car with milk and everything, and it went flying.
I think I picked her up on campus and she was walking with and spilled it.
So that's my confession. And then my cook lesson is one I actually learned from you, and that's the 3 bones you always need to remember to have: a wishbone, a backbone, and a funny bone. You need to have a backbone because that keeps you strong. It helps get you through life and the struggles that may come about in life. And then a funny bone because you should always be having fun and enjoying yourself, and life's too short to not have fun. And then a wishbone because you always need to dream big. So can you top those?
I can't top those. But so a confession I'll have on here is that, remember I said you didn't listen to me from 9th grade till you were a senior. You also didn't listen to me when you transferred back. And I wanted you to redshirt. And you're like, no, I'm not redshirting. And so I think the confession is a two-way confession. I think if you had to do over again, you would have redshirted, and I should have made you redshirt. So that would be my confession. That I didn't, I should have done that. Because, I did that with Kelly Hunter, and it was also a very difficult thing because, you were my daughter, but it was still, I still try to listen to families and players when a red shirt's a big decision because that changes a lot. And I remember getting calls from Kelly's parents. They were not happy I wanted to redshirt her. And I think they were thinking about pulling her out. And I just said, you have to trust me. This is the best thing for her. And
look at how that ended up.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that would be one confession. And what was the other thing?
Your lesson.
Cook lesson.
So any like insight? I know you have a lot of good advice.
When you did my 3 bones.
I even prepared you for this.
You didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? It's cook lesson. Well, I spent today showing our outside hitters, if you hit high line, you're a goddess. So that's a Cook lesson.
And what does that mean? Break it down.
And if you serve in the net, it's probably a 2-point loss for the team that serves in the net. So we're not going to serve in the net. If we're going to miss long.
Okay.
Those are volleyball ones.
Okay.
I think probably the other lesson would be good, and hopefully maybe there's some kids listening and maybe some people that are in the competitive business world or whatever. But I've learned this, that if you want to make a great decision at the critical point of a match, so let's say it's 15-15 Penn State in the fifth, and it's going to come down to somebody winning and losing by 2 points. If you want to be the one to make the great decision, make the swing, want the pass, want to be able to serve, you better have made great decisions all week long and probably all season long, not only in the gym but off the court as well. So I've learned that I think players that are making great decisions all the time about how they take care of themselves, how they sleep, do they go to class, do they train, do they watch video, do they do all those things, they'll get the confidence that they'll want to make that big decision when it matters most. And if you cheated all week or all month or all season, you're going to have doubts when it comes down to that. So that's one of the big lessons that I will be sharing with the Huskers here in about 48 hours.
Perfect. That's a good one. All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. But thank you so much for listening. And we will be back in a month with another new podcast.
Okay. Next month. I can hardly wait. Great job, Lauren.
Once a month. Great job to you. This was fun.
Well, let's see what the reviews are. We'll see how much fun it was.
Yeah. Give us a 5-star review.
Well, will people have a chance to give feedback?
I maybe.
I hope so.
Yeah,
anyway,
we'll find out. And we'll let people know the next podcast how they can leave feedback.
Just email Bill Moose, bmoose at huskers.com. Let them know what you think.
Thanks again for listening, and go Big Red.
Conversation with the Cooks is presented by Husker Sports, featuring Nebraska volleyball coach John Cook and former All-American Lauren Cook. Project manager is Michael Zorb. Edited by Josh Hilkeman. Sound design by Brett Whitty. Voiceover by Mike Elliott. Cover art provided by Sam Noonan. To find other Husker Sports podcasts, subscribe to the Husker Sports Network wherever you listen to podcasts, or listen and find out more at huskers.com/podcasts.